So joining us now is Republican Congressman Michael Waltz of Florida. Congressman, always a pleasure to have you here on Cheddar News. So what would you like to hear the president discuss tonight?
Well, I just saw a preview of some of his speech where he compares the attack on the Capitol January 6th, says it was the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War. And I want to be clear, it was a horrific day, and every one of those perpetrators should be brought to justice. But I also see that comparison as a slap in the face to the victims of 9/11, to every veteran like myself who's fought overseas since then. The attack in the 90s on the Murrow building by Timothy McVeigh, and of course, Pearl Harbor. So if that's the tone that he's going to set at the beginning of the speech, I think that is certainly not living up to the tenor of bipartisanship. Look, at the end of the day, I think we're going to continue to see bait and switch and a Trojan horse for what AOC and Bernie Sanders are lauding and applauding as the most progressive president in modern American history. But the bait and switch is, we get $2 trillion in COVID relief, but only 10% of it actually applies to COVID. We get $2 trillion in infrastructure, and only a very small portion are for roads, bridges, ports, and airports. And then we're going to hear more on social and education. If you want to, benefit education, how about we open the schools? In Florida, they've been open 5 days a week in person since last August, and we don't have dead teachers and kids in the street. And to the previous reporting on the optics in the Capitol, everyone in that Capitol has been vaccinated. Thank you, Operation Warp Speed, and the amazing success of our private sector unleashed by the previous administration. But if everyone's been vaccinated, I would love to hear touting of the vaccine, encouraging the vaccine, but still telling people they have to wear masks, they have to distance. We can't even have a joint session of Congress, much less get back to work or get back to school. I think sends exactly the wrong message when it comes to COVID.
Let's move to infrastructure, because that seems that's going to be a lot of the meat of Joe Biden's speech tonight. Obviously, the $1.8 trillion, a really big price tag there that has a lot of Republicans and even Democrats really nervous about that price tag. But Joe Biden likely going to say he wants Republicans to really be on board with this. Is there an infrastructure bill you think Republicans potentially could support here?
Oh, absolutely. And I would love to support it. I hit probably 3 potholes on the way home here. Our roads, our bridges, our ports, our telecommunications in terms of 5G, our microchip manufacturing. Right now, the United States designs 80% of the world's microchips, but China is producing and manufacturing 80% of them. America only produces 10%. So I think there are real investments. We talk about a green economy. China produces 90% of the world's solar panels. I want to bring that manufacturing back home, and we need to invest in the infrastructure to do so. But to label on or to add on, a whole list of progressive priorities like a Christmas tree and put it under the guise of infrastructure or COVID or education is being disingenuous with the American people, and we're putting that load on our children and on our grandchildren with no plan, no realistic plan to pay for it. And at the end of the day, we are going to drive off this fiscal cliff sooner than later. And I hope the Biden administration, when that happens, takes responsibility for it.
Yeah, let's talk about how to pay for it, because the president likely going to say today he's wanting to increase taxes on the wealthiest. He wants to hike the capital gains tax, also dramatically have the IRS enforce a lot of tax evasion policies. Is there a way to get an infrastructure bill without doing that? It seems like this is a very complex thing.
Well, I think we could certainly pare it down and focus it, have it much more targeted on, like I said, on the roads, bridges, ports, airports, and telecommunications that needs it, and do that with a public-private partnership. Look at the success of Operation Warp Speed that got government and regulation out of the way and unleashed the private sector. I think we could follow that same model, but to essentially levy taxes and regulations on the engines of our economy, when the wealthiest can frankly often afford to to not pay all of those taxes, it ends up affecting your medium and small businesses the most. It affects your LLCs with pass-through taxation, your S corps, and your partnerships that are the backbone of our small business community. Meanwhile, when you levy these additional taxes on, you're just chasing jobs back overseas. You're creating a very expensive workplace, and businesses can't afford to grow, particularly our small businesses.
All right, Florida Republican Congressman Michael Waltz, always a pleasure to have you here, sir. Thank you so much for joining us.